Welcome to the Man on a Mission podcast, where we interview visionary founders and leaders who are passionate about... Let's do that again. Welcome to the Man on a Mission podcast, where we interview visionary leaders and founders who are passionate about serving their people. Today, we have an amazing guest, Sandra, who is the founder of Nuggets Academy, a tuition center dedicated to helping students who are struggling with learning. She has transformed the way over 300 students approach math, focusing on those who fall behind in traditional classrooms. Her unique, personalized teaching methods not only help students overcome math anxiety, but also rebuild their confidence. Join us as we deep dive into Sandra's inspiring mission to change lives, one student at a time. Hi, Sandra. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Demi. Hello.
How are you feeling?
I'm okay. I'm feeling great.
You seem a little nervous.
Of course. So many cameras.
Yeah. No worries. Could you share with us what do you do?
I run a math tuition center, helping specifically the struggling group of students who don't fit into the mold in the school system. So specifically students who struggle with math, with motivation, they are at the borderline or they are failing. So we help this specific group of students to foster a growth mindset and help them enjoy learning eventually.
And I think it's so important, right? The idea of enjoying learning these days, because for students especially, right, they can be very pressured. Especially in Singapore, so stressed, right?
Yeah.
With all the PSLE national exams going on, right? So share with me a bit more about enjoying learning, right? What is it about students these days that they don't seem to enjoy learning anymore?
I guess it has got to do with the pressure to perform, right? A lot of times it can come from family, right? Parental pressures. Sometimes it can be internally, right? They feel pressured to perform. They want to excel. They say, why my, like FOMO like that, right? Why my friend can score AR1 or A1 then, but I cannot. Then they feel stupid and dumb. And then they just over pressure themselves. And then that takes away the joy of learning because learning is something that, lifelong learning, right? We need to learn now. We need to learn even when they're 60 years old. So it's so important that they need to enjoy the process of learning. Okay, wait. I don't know where my train of thought's going already. Sorry, hold on.
No problem. Let's continue from here. So when you mentioned Math Nugget and what you all specifically do, right, is to help students who are struggling with exams. So could you share with me a bit about your perspective of what are they like when they're struggling? What are the students like?
So when a student struggle, they find it difficult to keep up in school. Then in a class of like 40, right? 35 to 40 in class, the teacher has a certain curriculum to pace, right?
Yes.
Okay, this week I need to finish this. They need to follow. So there will be faster students in class as well. So unfortunately, if you fall behind, you're the last like 10%, right? Then how? You don't understand then. But the teacher has to move on already. So unfortunately, then you will start feeling like, you feel less of yourself, right? Then you feel like, I can't do it. Oh, I'm stupid. I'm dumb. This kind of negative self-talk. And then after that, you just stop believing in yourself. And then why should I work hard anyway? I'm just bad at math. It's easy to brush it off. And then after that, you just talk to yourself negatively and then you just spiral downwards from there. And the thing is, you don't not only do badly at that subject. Can you imagine the negative self-talk will just fester, right? And then it will grow. And then at the end of the day, you just become bad at everything you do because you just lose motivation, not just in the subject, but in life. Yeah, so it can get quite scary.
I want to ask about your reason for targeting struggling kids, right? Because there is a lot of tuition agencies out there in Singapore, definitely, right? We have heard of many different, very successful ones as well. But what is the gap that you see and why this group of students?
So why would be, okay, so if I were to like rewind back to my school days would be, back in secondary school, I was a very distracted student. Very distracted with friends, distracted with boys, distracted with having fun, and then not studying. So I did not see a purpose, just not motivated to do anything else other than play. So but like a couple of months before the O-levels, so my form teacher back then, who was also my math teacher, she just wrote a very simple card. I believe in you. So those words stuck with me. Then just those simple words like, wow, someone actually believes in me. So I do have a reason to prove myself. I would have a reason to stand up and say that, hey, I can do this. Why not? Okay lah, I try harder. So just because of that, I did a lot better for my O-levels. And so it stuck with me from then till now. Then it inspired me to be that person for students. And not just any student, like the ones who are already motivated, they're motivated. So it's the kids who don't believe in themselves or they find no meaning in what they're currently doing. I want to be the cheerleader. I want to be there for them to tell them that, hey, I believe in you. Don't ever say you give up. You're not good now doesn't mean you won't be good later. Yeah, and it's okay if you're not good now. So what? It's fine. Let's try again. We can still have fun while not being good at it, right? Never mind. Yeah. So I want to be that cheerleader to push them forward. And with this mindset, it's not just for them to be good at math now. Oh, PSLE, make sure you score an A. It's not just that. Because this mindset, if it's ingrained in them, it will bring them throughout their whole lives. So it would help them become happier, positive people as they grow older.
So based on what you're saying, right, it seems like the issue is not that they are not doing well or they're not smart enough to do well, but there is a deeper root cause of them believing in themselves. Yeah. So what is it like with the students that you see?
So of course, having said that, talking about students who struggle, we can broadly categorize them into two categories. There's of course the students who have actual learning disabilities, learning difficulties that there are actual barriers, right, in their head or in their minds that will deter them from, or rather, there are barriers to what we call help them excel, right? They are just generally slower, or they need more time to digest, processing skills. So that is one part of it. Then the other part would be kids who don't have learning difficulties, but they're just not interested. Right? They're just not interested. For what? Why must I study? Or maybe the defiant ones, right? Like the more daddy and mommy tells me to do well, all the more I'm like, for what? So I think there are two different groups that we're talking about here.
Yeah, definitely. That's great. And why do you think students struggle in traditional school settings?
So in the school, a class of 40, there would be mixed ability children. We would have the average ones, which maybe make up the majority. Then there'll be the ones that are fast, and there'll be the ones that struggle. So unfortunately, in the class of 40, as much as the teacher would want to cater to every single child, I'm sure as an educator, you want that for your kids, right? You want that for your students, but your hands are tied. In the class of 40, you still have to move on, even though maybe that group of weak students don't understand the concept, but you still have to move on because the rest of the class is waiting for you already. Okay, let's move on. So you can spend time outside of class, like remedial and things like that. But there's still limitation, right? As a teacher in school, you have so many students to take care of. And on top of teaching, you have so many things else you need to do, like CCA and other duties. So I guess that's the reason why, unfortunately, not every kid, not every student falls into the system. They can fit into the mold. And then that's why there are students who lag behind and fall out. And I would say, unfortunately, maybe in a way, for lack of a better word, neglected. Yeah.
And I think that has, yes, it's a traditional school setting that creates that gap, right? But also, I think it's tough for students in school as well, right? Where they not only have to focus on getting their students to do well academically, but they also have to look into other matters, like nowadays you talk about mental wellness, administration issues, right? Social issues, BGR and all these things. So what's your perspective like?
In terms of
looking at the traditional school setting and the reason why there are such gaps.
Okay, wait, I'm a bit lost here.
Okay, no worries. Let's talk about the challenges. Yeah. So what challenges do kids usually face? So now that, they lag behind and they're the neglected ones, right? And then when they go home, what happens to them?
What happens to the kids when they are neglected? Well, then it comes to the family structure already, right? How the parents are at home. So there are different types of parents, right? There are the ones that are overly involved. They really want to push their kids to do well. And then on the other hand, we have parents who perhaps they are just so busy working that they're like I just let you do what you do, right? But at the end of the day, result still matters. And even though the parents who so-called let go, they will still end of the day look at the results. So how do these kids fare, right? So at home, if they are so sometimes for these kids, right, if they are already not doing well, and then at home all the more they're being like nagged at, right? Why is one you don't know? I thought you said I sent you to so many tuition classes already. How come I still don't know? Then all the more this kind of negative talk to them will just make them shut down even more. All the more they will just not like learning and not like the subject. Yeah. Then on the other hand, for parents who perhaps just like think that, okay, I send you for 2-3 tuition classes, that's taken care of already.
Wait, 2-3 tuition classes?
Per subject.
Per subject?
It happens.
Wow.
It happens. So there may be multiple reasons for that. You know, I'm not faulting parents for that, but I guess in a way, I do see kids who get burnt out who get burnt out. Yeah. And I would say that a lot of times, even if you actually send your kids for enrichment and tuition help, at home you do still need to eyeball them a little bit. Yeah, maybe hold them accountable to whatever they are supposed to do. Maybe at least make sure the tuition homework is done. You know, so it's not really totally hands off. Hey, I pay money, then I hands off at home. The kids still need to feel like the parents are involved and they care. I think most importantly is the care part lah. Then don't overly.
What's the over part that you see?
The over part would be perhaps sometimes parents may so once you're too overly invested, right? So for example, if you're coaching your child and you're too overly invested, one example would be like why you still don't know? Then you impose on all these kind of expectations that I thought I went through this like 10 times yesterday, the day before. Then maybe perhaps you have your own anxiety. Then you're actually passing it on to your child without you knowing. Or maybe like because you're bad at math, then all the more you're like let's do this, practice again. You know, like maybe your child doesn't need that. You know, so a lot of times as parents, I think we just need to be a bit more mindful mindful about how we deal with the kids especially when we're coaching them at home.
Yeah. And you mentioned this thing called math anxiety before, which I thought was quite interesting. What is math anxiety?
So broadly, if we use in a broad manner, if we describe math anxiety, it would be it would look like in a child during class, during tuition, or during home assessment, actually can do. Maybe can score 80, 90 marks. No problem, no major issues. However, when it comes to the exams, why fail? Or why you like score 20, 30 marks lower than your usual standard? So most of the time, this would be indicative that the child is like nervous, not prepared, because in class actually can do ma. So I think will be more ill-prepared in terms of in the exam setting. So overly pressured, feeling overly nervous, then feel like, hey, I cannot fail, I cannot do wrong, right? So I think too concerned about the end result, right? That's why like then you freeze, then your mind goes blank. Yeah. So in a more extreme case, right, we've actually had a student come to us. Her math anxiety was even in during the class. We had her, then she was actually trembling.
Wow.
Trembling, like, how to do this? Tremble. And then she started crying uncontrollably. So I think that it's something that if you do see in your child, you might suspect. I think it's worth a deeper look.
So based on that student, then what happened to that student after?
So after then, of course, in class, we try to counsel the girl, counsel the student. Then bits and pieces, we celebrate small successes to say that, hey, oh wow, you managed to get the first step correct. Then try to feed confidence in the student, and eventually, all was good. All was good. So a lot of times we just need the students just need somebody to believe in them. And then to push them, nudge them forward a little bit without being like fierce or impatient or like, why you can't do it after 10,000 times? No, not that. All the more the child would just freeze up and do fair worse. So I guess the whole thing would be you need to throw a lot of empathy, a lot of patience and understanding and being encouraging in the whole mix.
I see. And how bad can it get? Have you seen cases of students that just cannot?
Just cannot. Then you may have worst case scenario of, I'm sure a lot of us have heard in the news that suicide cases, right? So it's not just them about giving up the subject, but giving up in life in general. Yeah. So that is not where we want things to hit. So I think as much as, it's all about excellence, right? It's so competitive. We want our kids to do well. We want to provide the best for them so that they can succeed in future. But during this process, we need to not forget that their mental and emotional well-being is very important as well. Because without a healthy mental and emotional well-being, no matter how excellent they are in terms of their skill sets and their knowledge, right? They won't be able to go that far, isn't it? Yeah. So
have you had cases near you that you seen this kind of
the extreme? Like classmates of like my students. Yeah, it has happened in the last 2 years. We have seen a couple of cases, which is quite crazy. And then our students would be quite traumatized as well. Yeah, like, oh, I just spoke to my friend the other day. Yeah, or but some naughty ones would be like using that as something to tell their parents, hey, you don't force me, later I also tell mom. So they can be quite naughty like that. But so it's just something that we need to be more mindful of.
Yeah. And it's strange these days, right? Because last time in our age, right, you don't hear people talking about depression in secondary school or primary school. Right, but now more so, you hear more and more cases like that. Right, so it's not that we want to exaggerate or things like that, but I think there is some sort of shift or there's some sort of phenomenon happening where kids are getting more and more stressed at a way younger age than we were in the past.
Yes.
Yeah. So do you see that in your students?
Yes, it's very apparent. Like even for myself in primary school, secondary school,
having fun, figuring out life.
Okay. Yeah. Like feel like, okay, go back, kana the rotan only, right? It's okay.
Correct.
But for them, it's like little bit, they're more sensitive. Yeah, they're more vulnerable these days. I guess it's probably with the technology, right? I mean, they're more like well-read. They know stuff, right? They watch a lot of YouTube videos and things like that. So they are exposed to more at a younger age. Yeah. So I think that and when they're exposed to that at a younger age and they're actually not emotionally and mentally mature enough to handle the things that they see. So I think that causes it's a bad mix. So as educators and as parents, I think it's important to understand and be more mindful and careful about such things.
Yeah. And based on what you just shared earlier, right, especially for kids who are falling behind, what do parents usually do before they meet you?
What do parents usually do? I mean, the typical one would be, send to many centers before, or like I tried coaching, or the Cheche or the Coco have tried coaching already. Then they're usually quite, have tried many things and they are at a loss already.
Yeah.
And especially when they see the child is already losing interest, just don't want to go for classes, but I cannot help at home, or our relationship is getting strained already, because I keep scolding. Right. And how, so there are usually a lot of parents, I won't say like most or all, but a lot of parents are actually at this stage where they do not know how to help. What do I do now?
Yeah. And do you feel that they are solving the root of the issue? I mean, does going to 2 or 3 actually help them?
It creates the burnout. Of course, which kid in the right state of mind would want to spend their entire waking time either in school or in tuition classes?
Yeah.
Then they do not get any rest at all to like think or be creative or just think about what they like to do, or in fact just do what they like to do. Right? So of course I'm not talking about at home slacking, just watching YouTube, but like other stuff, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of times we should not just focus on the academic part, right? Like you want to send for classes, fine. Maybe you can go for other classes like swimming, arts and things like that. So not purely academic. So we have had kids who come to us for math tuition. Then like, my other tutor taught me this. We're like, wait, you have another math tutor? Oh yeah. Then oops, the cat's out of the bag. Then we try to dig a little more like, but Why? Like, you're doing okay. Why do you need 2? Oh, actually, I have 3.
Wow.
And that's for one
What's going
subject.
on?
So can you imagine how tied up this student is?
Yeah.
So it's quite
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah, I remember when I was young, since you talk about this, right? I remember when I was in primary 6, I was actually struggling with math. I had 2 tuition.
Right.
Yeah, so one tuition was in a classroom setting. The other one was more one-to-one.
Yeah.
Right. So I remember I was just dozing off the one-to-one. I just couldn't keep awake. And I just hated that subject.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the more I went into being exposed to a lot more of these subjects, which I'm weak at, right, the more I actually hate it.
Correct.
Right. So I totally align with what you're saying about, is it even necessary? I mean, yeah, in effect, yes, maybe with time, right, it will help over the years, right? But it just doesn't do well for the kid themselves, right? But I believe from the parents' perspective, it's like they're lost. Like what you mentioned, they're lost. They don't know what to do about it. So today you're here, right? What would you like to tell these parents who are in the phase of lostness? They don't know what to do about it. How can they approach this?
I think end of the day, you really need to address the root cause, and the root cause would be your child is not interested, right? So you need to build that interest first. So before any real learning can happen, you really have to make sure that the motivation is there. And how will the kids be motivated in the first place? Help them build that interest. Help them believe in their learning ability. Help them believe that they can do it. So I think start small, and most importantly, celebrate the small successes. Don't just think that now you're failing. In 3 months, I need you to get A1. But like okay, fine. Let's go down to basics now. Okay, so a little bit, hey, let's try the 1 mark question. Hey, 1 mark. That's quite awesome. Then let's try the 2 mark, 3 marks question. Oh, don't just say, hey, wrong, right? Hey, wrong, man, what? Celebrate the small successes.
Can you remember this? Why do you remember this?
Yeah, but celebrate the small successes. Like, okay, write a very ridiculous equation. Like, I see that, you got to force yourself to be like patient, okay? You have to be patient. Maybe at that point in time, naturally, you'll be like why? Right? It's easy to react that way. But take 2 steps back and like, okay, I can see that you've written this. Can you help me understand why is this? Oh, this part is correct though. I can see that in your mind, you've gotten this right. That's great. Previously you didn't, the earlier question, but now you did. So, okay, let's try again, like small little motivational sentences. Really the point is celebrate small successes. And they will start to feel like, oh, you mean it's okay to make mistakes? Then they will start trying. Then, I think I'm not so bad after all. Then all the more they will slowly build the motivation from there. And that's where the magic needs to happen first. The groundwork needs to happen first. There's no point in spending so much money. Then on the day you waste money because your child is just going physically there, but opening up to learning a lot
may not happen.
Yeah.
I see. And just now you mentioned one thing which was pretty interesting. You mentioned the part about how some parents, when they throw their kids to tuition center and they're like, okay, that's it. My job is done. Right?
Yeah.
So what's the mistake here? If you were to elaborate further.
I think as much as I always tell parents, I don't strain the relationship. You don't coach at home. Like if it's getting strained already, you have the money, the resources, outsource. Right? Leave it to the pros like us. We can help with the content. We can help to address the issues. So you can still have the good parental-child bond, right? So, wait, I lost my train of thought again.
Good parental bond?
Good parental bond. Your question was?
My question was, what are some misunderstandings that parents have? So they feel that
hands off,
out.
Right?
Yeah.
So, why am I?
Okay, I'll ask the question again.
Okay.
Yeah. So, in your experience, it's funny how some parents are overly attached to the kid. Some parents are just like, okay, I have sent my child to tuition center and the child is good, right? And they just ignore everything else, or they just don't do anything else at home, right? So what's the mistake here that parents make when it comes to the home support that they give?
So a lot of times I tell my parents that it's actually a tripartite relationship. We need to have a good relationship with the child. The child, you need to have a good relationship with your child, and we need to have a good relationship with you in terms of communication wise. So we only see your child like once a week for 2 hours, right? So as much as, yes, we can do the stuff that we're supposed to do during the 2 hours. However, we still need a lot of other feedback from you, like in terms of like, hey, this week they're learning this topic and I find that, they're struggling. So like, let us know. We might not be able to help then or that particular lesson, but like, hey, it's information for us to know, and then so that we can understand your child better as well. So in terms of that, you have to hands-on a little bit also. Otherwise, you won't be able to tell us that, oh, I noticed that his schoolwork is this, or I noticed that she's struggling with this topic now. If you're totally hands-off, how will we then be able to get the feedback? So there's only so much we can do in terms of the 2 hours, once a week that we see your child. So this kind of communication to better help your child build that supportive environment is just really important.
So what exactly can they do at home to support?
I think number one, just make sure that, they sit down and do their work. Sometimes the parents just find that, hey, I throw them to you, then like, that's that lah. I just do that. But the child still needs to, especially when it comes to learning math, they need practice lah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're not even talking about like tens and so many pages, but like just a little bit. We don't give like a lot of homework every day, but we just need to ensure that, there's some form of practice. And a lot of kids take for granted, kids being kids, right? They're just like that, I've forgotten how to do it, right? I don't know how to do. But I guess the parents just need to ensure that they're just seated. Make sure you try your best to complete. Then on this note, I need to highlight the other parents who are the overly involved one.
Yeah.
And then they will actually help to complete. As in really help them and guide them through the entire thing, which might not necessarily be the best thing. Because at the end of the day, as the teachers, the following week I come back, the homework is like, oh, perfect.
So they thought already progressed beyond
already.
that stage.
Let's move on. But actually, no, you struggled a lot at home. And your dad or mom helped you. And the best part is the parents didn't tell us about it. So we just moved on. So at the end of the day, we don't understand your child.
Yeah.
So then we will not be able to really help your child address the learning gaps.
So step one is make sure they're accountable for their homework.
Accountable.
Because they're still kids after all, right?
Yes.
So that's step one. And step two, don't be overly involved in the problem solving, basically.
Yes. Yeah.
So they can support, but maybe support to get them to finish their homework, and that's about it.
Yeah, pretty much that. Or I guess that's on from my point of view. End of the day, it's between again you and your tutor or the tuition center itself. So depending on what kind of arrangement best helps the child.
Are there examples that you've seen in your center before where a student is not doing that well because of the lack of supportive environment at home?
Actually, a lot of times. A lot of
Share
times.
with me one or two cases.
Lack of parental support.
I remember there was one that you mentioned, mommy don't care. That one.
Wait, which one? No, I said mommy don't care.
Yeah, because the mommy just threw her at the tuition center and check in.
Okay, yeah. So now we're talking about those that don't care, is it? So we have this like student who came in, and so in class she was generally okay, like okay, teachable, generally compliant in class, but like when it comes to homework, why not done? I don't know how to do. Or like homework, where's your homework? I didn't bring. So like we were making actual progress in class during the time when we see her, but when during the week, for the rest of the week, nothing has been done. So then sometimes when we talk to the parents, like, oh, so-and-so, Mrs. So-and-so, the homework not done, can you please ensure? Oh, okay. But week after week, it's still the same issue. So then when we talk to the student itself, why?
Yeah.
My parents don't care what. My parents don't care what. So like there are some issues going on at home, or these are private issues lah, right? Home setting. So there's nothing much we can do or interfere. But during class, we just try to make as much progress as we can. So then that will be an issue for the child, because the child will think that, yeah, mommy just spend money, send me to here, there, pay a lot of classes, but does she ever ask about like what I do? Does she even care? She doesn't show concern, what? So why should I do extra? Like, fine, I like coming for class because you are nice, but why should I do more? Why should I do more? That's about it, lor.
Yeah, I think that's a very important thing that you just mentioned, because a lot of times we want kids to be motivated, right? But we have to remember that they're still kids, right? That their goal in life is not to be like number one in school and graduate with like top honors. Usually it's hardly the case. Usually the case is they want to make their parents proud, right? So if there isn't some sort of feedback or supportive environment at home, then they'll just feel that why should I do more, right? Because it's going to strain myself.
Yeah.
So is that the case for the student?
Yeah, totally. There's no reason for her to want to do more. Like you send me, okay, like I go law. I'll attend. You tell me for class, yes, I'll go. I won't complain. But do more for what? Do more for who? You know, you're not showing that you care. What? Yeah. So you mean I do? You will care? So they have to know. So that kind of communication or just getting involved lah. Let the kids know that you care. And I guess also more importantly, let them know that you care, but don't overly care to the extent they think that you only care about the results.
Oh, that's a tricky balance, right?
Yeah, it's difficult,
so
right?
Tough.
It's difficult. So parenting is a journey lah.
Yeah.
So we cannot teach like parents how to parent, but it's just something that we want to highlight lah.
And what were share with me some stories about parents that were overly involved?
Overly involved? Well, I guess there will be those who maybe think that they know what's best for their child in terms of like, can you teach this week? And for this question, can you solve in this manner instead of what you do? So like actually coming to us with the feedback that I think this method works for my child better.
Oh,
so
but not from the child.
Not from the child, from the parent. Like, I think this one works better. So, not to like diss anyone, but like perhaps yes. Okay, you might have what you feel works best for your child. Then perhaps in that case, it would be best to hire a one-to-one help instead of sending your child to a center, because at the center will have certain curriculum or methods, right? So for parents like that, then maybe you should get a one-to-one help so that you can actually get that one-to-one tutor at home to cover
really
the necessary, customize according to what
method.
you. So, yeah lah.
But I believe one-to-one also have its pros and cons, right? And from you yourself, you started off as a one-to-one tutor as well, right? So from your background, what do you think are the pros and cons of a one-to-one?
So for a one-to-one private tutor that comes to your place, one thing I noticed over the years that I did one-to-one tutoring at students' place would be the students are too comfortable in the home environment. That's the one major thing. They're usually in their bedroom, which is their study room as well.
Yeah.
Even if you have the tuition in the living room, in the dining table, or at the dining table, they're still in the home environment. It's like they are king. I can do whatever I want. So sometimes they get sleepy, they get restless, or they just like take 20-minute toilet breaks because they can.
Wow, okay.
So behavior-wise, and also I guess is the mindset. The mindset will be like I'm switched off. I'm not in learning mode. At home, I'm hardly in learning mode, right? So then when I started doing a small group tuition at my place, so when the kids come over to my place, I see a drastic shift in their attitude. They're like I'm in somebody else's territory now. I need to behave myself. I'm no longer at home, the noir mode, now I'm like learning mode. I'm in teacher's house already. I'm in I'm in the classroom, right? So I'm going to behave myself and I'm going to pay attention and learn. So that mindset shift is pretty important. I'm not saying for every kid. Maybe if your child is already motivated learner, then there won't be an issue.
Yeah.
But for most other kids who are like tuition, so boring, right? Yeah, this mindset shift would actually be quite helpful.
And you mentioned the idea of creating a safe environment for learning, right? So at the center, of course, now they are in a new place, right? They are in a foreign place, not their home. So they feel that naturally they have to behave a bit more and they have to, be alert, right? And start learning. What other aspects of creating that space did you do to help foster learning better?
For one, it would be a social environment for the kids. Kids will be kids. They still want to have kakis and friends, So as opposed to a one-to-one learning environment at home, they will feel like, so lonely, so boring. 2 hours I'm sitting alone in the tutor just doing work. There's no interaction. Or even if there's interaction, it's not a peer-to-peer kind of interaction.
Yeah.
So in a setting, in a classroom setting, a small classroom setting, it's sufficient social activities without it being too disruptive. You can have a couple of classmates that's like, hey, yo, bro, how are you today? Right? Yeah, that's nice, right? Just having the yo, or like somebody cracks a joke, or somebody like, hey, why you don't know? That kind of thing. It makes learning fun. So it makes the environment light. It's not so stressful, like, the tutor is just staring at me doing work for 2 hours. So in that kind of light learning environment, is what I believe would really help kids thrive.
Awesome. Let me see the time. Okay, let's take a break now and then we'll go to part 2 later.
Okay.
Doing well. I think the second half was you eased into it. I had more conversation.
My brain would be like,